Yo ho ho! What's going on, guys? This is Grim Reaper bringing you guys the next installment of One Punch Man. Today we're covering chapter 113 review. So this chapter was really interesting. Like a lot more interesting than a lot of things that we've has been showing up. So you already know, of course, we recently had the September versus Orochi fight, the Tatsumaki confrontation, the atomic fight with Black Sperm. All crazy hypeness. Chapter's been getting hyper along the way. With this reveal of Homeless Emperor and Fear Ugly, it hasn't fallen off at all whatsoever. In this different term of mystery and occult things and kind of lore-ish, back in the day stuff, it's so weird that I completely do not know what to expect next. Like an Ugmon that was mentioned, I don't mean to skip ahead, but an Ugmon was mentioned. I don't know what the fuck that is, but apparently it's an ugly monster, and that's a thing in lore. I've never heard of that concept before. So I'm kind of weird with that. And then the whole God thing took me completely from the side of me. I used to be really religious, but I'm not as much anymore. So I didn't know exactly how to feel when I first read that. But then just taking it as a narrative standpoint, I was like, okay, this has to be a dragon or an above dragon. If you can make dragons, if you can make an executive, you have to be above dragon. And we'll get into that in a second. So, Zombieman, if you guys know, the Zombieman's regeneration has incredibly, by a very, very large degree, it's depleted. Super restrained right now. Moratsu did a really good job last chapter in showing us that. I actually it's one of the reasons why I hyped up Zombieman last chapter, because with this guy's catastrophic, badass consecutive attacks, these little or explosive orbs that are pretty destructive, Zombieman just kept getting back up. He was showing off his regeneration like that. I'm assuming that's how it happened with Hero as well, because he lost 200 times in 30 minutes and then beat him at the end. So you're losing more times in a second. Some calculation like that. So to see Zombieman noticeably this chapter be regenerating in a lot more time than it usually does, and it's very, very noticeable. Even the last panel we see of Zombieman this chapter, he's not completely healed. He even mentioned that, the conversation ended before my injuries could heal. Showing his strategic intellect even in a perilous situation, which he's been shown to have throughout the entire fight. I think the only time was where he was getting completely overwhelmed and wasn't that strategic was against Pure Blood. And even then, he still had the technique towards him after the first flurry. So, I'm interested to see how Zombieman gets out of the situation. Out of all the heroes that, we've encountered so far, Zombieman is one of them that, he doesn't really present that air of, he's going to have trouble or some shit like that. It's of course he'll get his ass busted. We saw his combat level, but he's technically immortal to a certain degree until we figure out more information about him. So I'm not really worried about that. But now, so he described Homeless Emperor's power as a magic, and we know that it seems to reduce or erode his capability, his regenerative capabilities. We don't know to what extent, because he's pretty fucked up. He was, when the first panel we've seen of Zombieman, before he got more of a shapelier form or more of his head and face and skin started to return, he was getting smashed pretty badly. So I'm just what really is this so-called magic? Because I don't mean to skip ahead. Well, let's just get to it. So Phoenix Man and Homeless Emperor had some similarities in their backstories. They both worked for a company, were mistreated, humiliated at that company, and the resulting emotions and grudge that they held helped transform them into a monster. Now, it seemed they both have a lot of little traits and degrees of incredible intellect and intelligence. Phoenix Man has shown it in his monster form throughout the entire thing, being an exceptional scout, coordinating a lot of the offensive events that happened on the attacks in the cities and stuff like that, wherever he was involved, coordinating with Elder Centipede and a bunch of different people. So he's shown a lot of intelligence. The intelligence that Homeless showed was his psychological thought process. Just by being in that traumatic state, he deduced that Mother Earth, the only way to serve Mother Earth efficiently is to kill all humans, to get rid of humans. And to that extent is what makes the entire situation and backstory that much more interesting. That reaching that goal or that mindset isn't necessarily the crazy part. The crazy part is that then there's a God that's involved. And this God seems to agree with that mentality. So that right there is, to me, the biggest hint that's saying that this is not actually a sentient being. And this is why earlier in the video I called him an actual monster. Because this lines up perfectly. The Homeless Emperor seems to be talking about, killing, committing an atrocity, something that's categorized as complete evil, no matter what degree. And he wasn't even saying it out loud. I think he was thinking it. It's his thought process. And this God character was able to acknowledge that thought process. So he's psychic to a certain extent as well, or at least can read minds. And he's able to give power. Now, this guy didn't just make a dragon like Orochi has. Orochi made Goketsu, one of the stronger dragons that we've seen. I think that's the strongest dragon that we've seen that Orochi actually forced or made, aside from the ninja duo, who could be considered pretty tough in comparison to Goketsu or not, and Haragiri, who could also be tough in comparison to Goketsu, but who I think all three of those guys would lose to Goketsu. So Goketsu is pretty much the strongest monster cell creature that we've seen, quote unquote, unless I'm forgetting one of the guys, so remind me in the comment section. Regardless of that though, to be able to make an executive level fighter, you have to be above dragon. If you're a dragon that can make other dragons, cool, but it's pretty crazy to be able to make a guy like Homeless Emperor and to be able to affect Zombieman to this degree. It's been made an obvious plot point throughout this entire arc that Girl has been managing the matchups that these executives as well as these other S-class heroes and these higher strength dragon monsters are going to be encountering each other with. Whether it's the Flashy Flash situation, whether it's the Atomic Samurai situation, or whatever it may be, a lot of these guys were set up that way for a reason, because they have the best chance of the matchup. So, I'm not necessarily saying that if Homeless Emperor encountered Flashy Flash or Child Emperor, that he wouldn't fare the same, or that he wouldn't beat them in less time. But I'm wondering, why is it against Zombieman? Obviously, it's his magical, quote-unquote, we're going to consider it magical traits to his power, to destructiveness, that's eroding the regeneration away from Zombieman. But would this guy really be weak up against somebody else? I don't think so. He seems pretty fucking crazy, pretty strong, but, I'm getting a lot more comparisons and a lot of memories to Vaccine Man, as we previously mentioned. Vaccine Man's backstory also involved Mother Earth and, killing, getting rid of things, returning things to the earth itself. That type of cyclic concept to a certain degree, even though it varies to large degrees with his Homeless Emperor. Either way, it's interesting to see that there could be a larger backstory having to do with that. Mother Earth created creatures or natural born creatures, however we're going to choose to categorize it later on. And is this itself a new category that we should use for monstrification? I know in the types of monsters videos that I made, from the information that we gathered from chapter 84, I believe it is, or 83, one of those chapters, whenever Zombieman's talking to Dr. Genius, we can deduce there are particular types of monsters that exist. In particular, there's 4 or 5 of them. And Orochi's Monster Cell transformation doesn't necessarily fall into that categories, but he could be muscled his way in there. So it's just another addition to that. Is God going to be creating more monsters like Orochi has? One of the interesting points that we saw in the actual chapter was that it's not like Orochi just skeets these out or shits these out and then you can just eat them and they'd be just fine, even though it's disgusting. They seem to have to cure or nurture the monster cells to a certain degree or time period or maturity in order for their effects to be, efficient or actually work. We already know the stipulations for the monster cells. If you're too weak, it might not work. If you don't have the motivation, it might not work. If you have sufficient self-control, you can maintain your human form and transform. There's different stipulations that go on with the monster cell transformation. So I'm interested to see what other details this God is revealed to have whenever he's transferring powers over. And is this power permanent for a Homeless Emperor? Can this God character remove it? I'm super interested in that. It's very interesting. It can get really iffy, but we'll see how that plays out. Amai was involved in the storyline. The Amai hype. It is finally time to pay up. One of the things that I that I've noticed about this community, you got metal back guys, you got flashy guys, you got fucking bang guys, You got all different kinds of heroes and shit like that too. Geno's guys, but not that much. You know, a lot of different fans and a lot of different fan bases feel certain heroes are better. They like them better. They're drawn more, whatever it is, whether it's webcomic stuff, manga only stuff, anime stuff, different branches. But the Amai hype train has been steamrolling for no goddamn reason for too fucking long. I understand he's a pretty boy idol, you know, stereotypical. You know, they love that shit in all the stories I ever read. You know, I'm not the biggest hater of Amai, shit like that. I ain't finna support that nigga, but I don't hate him like that. So this is the second chance, second opportunity to see what he can do. He was talking shit to Flashy previously. He was talking shit to Atomic previously. He's talked shit to all kinds of heroes previously. Fucking the Metal Bat was also gonna bust his ass too before. He's annoying, but he know for a fact he's powerful. He even acknowledged the strength of this executive level dragon like nothing. He just knew that it was strong, and that's more so than the downplaying or the scarcity of his appearance that Amai was alluded to the entire chapter. That I noticed that a lot more. That he immediately was able to introduce the strength of a strong individual, which isn't completely unforeseen, but it helps indicate how strong you are. If you can acknowledge somebody's strength, it usually means that you're pretty strong too. So I'll put it like this. I don't necessarily feel the Amai hate train right now. I don't have any shit to talk. I could tell that the dialogue that he was saying was more some like personality type traits of him instead of like physical strength type traits. You know, he's a fucking shallow asshole, so of course appearance means everything. And it's like Fear Ugly mentioned that appearance doesn't mean everything. Strength is what it is. He's gonna beat his ass. It seems like the morality aspect here is flipped. I'm kind of rooting for Fear Ugly to bust fucking Amai Mask's fucking face. He even said that this guy's so fucking ugly he turned into a monster. That's what his declared backstory was. So whether that's the actual one or whether that's just Amai's fucking description of him, we'll find out. Besides that, it was a pretty fucking good chapter, man. I'm super excited for that. Make sure you guys check out the upcoming podcast. Unfortunately, we weren't able to record the previous podcast because I was having some technical issues for a few weeks. I've now been able to repair that. We're good to go. So we will be having a conjunction 112 and 113 podcast. It might be a little bit longer than usual, but we will be separating the two portions and reading through and discussing through both chapters all together. So you'll get a different perspective and a larger perspective of what's going on. So we'll see you boys next time. Make sure you guys like, subscribe. Check out our Patreon if you guys want to support the channel. We're trying to move forward and get a lot of big things going, and we're getting that step by step. We already have a few patrons supporting us, so any help that you guys will give us is going to show up. We'll see you guys next time. Yo ho ho!